Bears, and welcome to Bears with Boobs. My name is Emmeline and welcome to my channel. I hope that this video can alleviate some fear if you or a loved one is going along this journey or a similar path to it. This is a caretaker's perspective of my mom who was diagnosed with triple-negative breast cancer. And here's my bear because I don't know why I'm so nervous, but I do hope that this video helps alleviate some of that burden and fear and help you along your journey. So my mom was diagnosed in 2021 of December. Prior to that, 2019 she had a normal mammogram. 2020 she skipped due to the pandemic, which I think a lot of women did, and then received her abnormal diagnosis in 2021. She ended up not telling us until the end of February 2022, even though she did seek out, I believe, an oncologist and to see if that was okay. I do wish that she felt empowered enough or felt comfortable in telling the family. It's heartbreaking to think that she had to handle and harbor this news on her own for so long just so that she could spend time with her grandson. And I wish I could have let her know that she's so loved and supported, and that, you know, we were going to get through it as a family, and that she's okay and safe. So I hope that if any of you are going through this, that you feel like you're not alone and that you are supported and loved, and you are going to be able to make it through this journey. We found out in February of 2022, and at that point she had seen one facility and an oncologist in Virginia. I am primarily located in Arizona, and I have a sister who is in Connecticut. At this point, I knew that I wanted to go back to Virginia to help my mom through this journey and through her treatment and the doctor's visits, just so that she wouldn't be alone. And so this was a conscious decision on my part, and definitely not an easy one, but I knew I wanted to be there. And at that point, she did go to a facility already, and she got an MRI, blood test, and a CT scan. And in her MRI, it showed that she had a suspicious 1.5 centimeter mass in her right breast, and some other small, like 0.3 centimeters in mass in her central breast, and an abnormal clump, all in her right breast. Her left breast was okay, and there was no axillary or internal mammary lymphadenopathy. So primarily it was all in her right breast, and that was what was shown on the MRI. I think it was really important, and I'm thankful my mom did choose to do this. That was with my mom and dad, to also go to a different oncologist to get a different perspective on what they saw on the mammogram, along with the MRI and the tests that she already had done. Ultimately, my mom had two different options. We'll go with facility A and facility B. The first facility, where she got most of her tests done, the MRI, the CT scan, and blood work, they saw that my mom's breast cancer, triple-negative breast cancer, was at stage 2. At facility B, the oncologist, after looking at her notes and the lab work and all of the testing, saw that my mom's staging was at stage 1. So it is really important for you to decide and to talk to other oncologists, because different staging means different types of treatment plans. At facility A, the treatment plan would have been much more aggressive and would have involved chemotherapy, immunotherapy, and then radiation, likely after surgery. In facility B, the treatment protocol was chemotherapy and potentially radiation after surgery if they saw any abnormalities either in sizing of the tumor or in the lymph nodes. So ultimately, my mom decided on choosing facility B. She felt most comfortable with this oncologist The oncologist had over 25 years of experience, has seen many women with triple-negative breast cancer, and felt that she was confident in her diagnosis and staging of my mom, and my mom felt most comfortable in choosing this facility. The oncologist said that the cancer is stage 1 because the tumor was less than 2.5 centimeters. It was 1.5 centimeters, and that she didn't feel it was necessary, that my mom needed the combination of chemotherapy and immunotherapy. Another reason why my mom chose facility B was because of the location. The location was 10 minutes from our house. The facility was beautiful. She loved the vibe. She connected with the oncologist, and these are all things that I would suggest taking into account, knowing that you will be at this facility for a good chunk of time if this is the diagnosis that you're dealing with. In facility B, they staged my mom completely differently, which would have been a much more aggressive treatment. I'm not sure, I don't know the future or what my mom could or couldn't handle, but it was a lot more aggressive, and it was further from our house, about 45 minutes, and the oncologist that my mom was speaking with, she didn't feel as comfortable as she did in facility B. So ultimately, I suggest that it is the decision and conscious decision of the person who is dealing with cancer, because they're the ones going through the treatment, and you want them to feel most comfortable and empowered, and their decision making was entirely on their own. And that's really what I wanted for my mom. I also would like to preface that my sister and I are both naturopathic medical doctors, so we are familiar with medical terms and being in healthcare and have our own opinions, but again, we knew that this was ultimately my mom's decision, and I wanted to take a step back and really make sure that this decision was hers and hers alone at the end of the day. The treatment that they proposed for my mom in facility B was 8 chemotherapy treatments total, and it was once every 2 weeks for a 4-month span. The first 4 were cyclophosphamide and adriamycin, also known as doxorubicin, also known as the Red Devil. I called it the Red Goddess to try to shed some light on it. And then the last 4 were Taxol. That was her treatment plan. Again, 8 chemotherapy treatments in a 4-month span every other week. Since my mom already had many of the tests done, blood work, MRI, CT, facility A also wanted her to do a PET scan, but facility B said, no, that's enough information for us to move forward with treatment. And since my mom did wait for a good minute before starting treatment, they were, ready to go. So the only thing that she needed left was an echocardiogram, and that was because the adriamycin or different types of chemotherapy affects the heart. They wanted to make sure that my mom had good heart function and a healthy baseline to start out with, so the success of chemotherapy would be that much greater. Again, for choosing a facility, I wrote some notes here. You want to make sure that you vibe really well with the oncologist that you are going to be working with, because you will likely be working with this oncologist for not only through your treatment, but for a good portion of the rest of your life. And we based it on the vibe and feeling she had with the oncologist and the location. So after my mom got her echocardiogram, it was time for her to get her port. And from what the nurses told us, the port was such a nice feature to have. I'm not sure if all patients with cancer have a port, but it was easy and convenient for the nurses to access it, for her treatment to be a lot more seamless and just not having to fish around to look for a vein. So of course your oncologist would know to do that if that was necessary, but that insertion was like a small surgery. She did have to get anesthesia and all of that for that, but it was a pretty simple surgery for that. I have a list that I will share with all of you, questions that you can ask your oncologist, and you can tailor it to the path and journey that you're going through, and I hope that that can help with solidifying and choosing a space that you feel comfortable with. I mean, it's broken down into questions to ask the oncologist, questions to ask the surgery, additional questions that you may not think about. Like my mom did receive great insurance coverage due to the insurance that she had, and we also sought out a naturopathic doctor who specializes primarily in oncology, and I'll do a whole separate video on alternative therapies and how they helped my mom through her treatment with chemotherapy and how it was supporting the chemotherapy and not going against it whatsoever. So lastly, I'd like to talk about the caretaker's perspective and how to go about receiving news and knowing that, you know, your loved one is going through this, and I can assure you it is not a easy feat, and sometimes, I know speaking for myself, I did go into it with a hero's complex. I was like, oh, okay, I'm ready, I can, you know, be there for my mom 24/7. I've gone through medical school. I know what healthcare is. This is going to be not that bad. Well, it was definitely a lot harder than I could ever imagine, and why I wanted to share this to all of you. It's so important for you to take care of yourself as a caretaker first, because you are of no use to your loved one if you are running on empty. And I didn't really figure that out until halfway through my mom's treatment, where I was like, wow, I'm so burnt out. I feel so alone because I don't want my mom to feel guilty knowing that I also don't feel well, and she obviously isn't feeling well. If I could share any word of advice for caretakers, it would be to find a way to make sure that you are also well supported. And for me, that was waking up earlier, going on a run, exercising. Any chance I got, I would do something that I loved. Like I would go to a coffee shop for an hour or two just to get away, digress, and feel like, okay, I can go back home, I can feel ready and filled within myself in order to help my mom through the side effects that she was experiencing with chemotherapy. And, you know, I'll do a whole separate video on that too, but I do hope that this was of value to you. If you have any questions, please ask me. I hope that I covered the majority of what it was like for my mom in receiving the diagnosis, the treatment that she ended up going forward with, and also the facility and oncologist she chose. I am sending all of you love. Please let me know if you need anything, and I will see you in my other videos, and I will break it down into the chemotherapy treatments.